Hey guys, this is Sneaky Pete with Sneaky Shoot RPG, where the ones are righteous, and one day we'll believe it. Just wanted to start a DM's diary. This is diary entry 1. Dear Diary. Dear DM's diary. I think that's what we'll call it. Dear DM's diary. Going to be starting a 5th edition campaign with my gaming group. Probably every other week at my place. But today it was go to Dover and get the friends all oriented with the rules, because none of them had played 5th edition before. I have played it on a limited basis with ID Jester, great channel, check him out. ID Jester. Ran 5 sessions with him and a few other players, and it ended up horribly, but man, it was epic the way it ended up. It really was. But this was just a learning session for all the players and myself. The players get the hang of how combat works, how to do the rolls with this, that, and everything, kind of get comfortable with us working together. And for me, learning how to put it all together, learning to be descriptive, learning when to make rolls, learning when to fudge a roll if I had to, which I didn't have to, and hopefully I won't have to, but I will take that prerogative on a case-by-case basis. But it was really cool. It was. We had a lot of fun. Probably about a total of 3 hours played. 2 hours, then a break, 1 hour, and then life interrupted. Which it does, and that's no biggie, but we got a lot of stuff done. We really did. Whipped together a dungeon in a couple of hours this morning. We did a short little couple of rounds of combat so the guys could get used to it on a dungeon mat. And then we broke out my dungeon and it started, and the guys work into the first room, and they go to a small room over on the right, and there's like gunpowder all over the floor and a full intact barrel. So they decide just to snatch it up, and then they heard the click. And then sparks came and the whole thing blew up, and one of them took force damage, and then they went over into the other side room. There wasn't anything there at all. But one of the characters, we'll call him Don, kept on trying to smash his shoulder into it like crazy, and took a couple of constitution checks, failed them, and started taking a point of damage each until finally somebody came over and picked the lock for him. No, someone came over with their mace. We'll call this character Mac, this player. And he rolled a 20. Now I know it's not combat, but I asked that fateful question, how do you want to do this? So he hit it low, and it knocked the hinge off completely and up into the air, and it wrenched the other hinge off, and the door fell flat in the room right in front of him. But there wasn't anything in that room. Then they split up a couple of corridors that actually got back together, but the one to the right had a trap in it, and we'll say the third player, whose name we'll call him Dolph. Dolph went that way and checked and looked, and he came back into the room to see if there was anything, and then went back up the hallway to the left. Well, we'll call the fourth player Reven. So Reven decided to walk down the hall and walk around the corner and walk right into the trap, and he heard the click. He rolled a crit on his dex save, so he rolled forward just as the guillotine came down into the space where he just was. So they all go running and check it out and everything. Everyone's okay, and then the two groups meet together at a locked door in the same hallway leading into a crypt room. And there's an altar there, and they put sacrifices on the altar, and a blue flame comes up, and they get the torches on the ground next to it, and they light scepters over top of 12 different sarcophaguses. 4 already had torches that were lit, and it was a magical thing. It was an enchanted thing, and try as they might after the 3 torches were used, they could not get any of the rest of them to work. No problem, so they go over to the corner. If they had not done any sacrifices, then there would have been a fireball trap. But they did a sacrifice, so no fireball trap. And they went over to the corner. There was a staircase going down, and they went down into like a sanctuary kind of room with benches and prayer closets, and a raised dais at the end of it. And they checking it out. And there's not a lot in this room, and there's script the whole way through written on walls, and they're reading it. And then they, one of the characters, Reven again, walks over and just opens a door, steps through. 4 goblins in this 4th room, small dungeon. Just getting him the hang of what to do. Steps into the room, 4 goblins in the dungeon. And he makes the smartest decision that was made by anybody the whole night. He ran back through the door and slammed it shut. And then fighting ensued through the doorway until Reven went through. A couple of potions were drank. Everyone was back up to health. Actually, nobody was in danger of dying. It never got that close. Didn't have to fudge any rolls. And they finally got into the room. A hobgoblin goblin boss came up, and they totally did that. They got to the point where they were checking all the chests, and one of the 6 chests that were in the room, treasure chests, had a trap. And the rogue, the halfling rogue being played by Dolph, I mean, he was rolling all night, 17s, 18s, 19s, 20s, and he goes in order, this chest, this chest, this chest, this chest, this chest, and the last one was the one that had the trap, and I'm like, wouldn't it be fitting if he missed this one? Because the trap would have been, would have triggered an avalanche that covered up an empty well in the middle of the room, which they were planning on going down, but we ran out of time, but, you know, no problem. He rolled a 20, and then life intervened, and they weren't able to check out the treasure chests, which I told them what a couple of the treasures were. A couple of them were sacrifices that the characters made up on the altar in the crypt room. They could have been attacked by 7 skeletons, which would have been those knights, perhaps, that had the sconces lit. Those who are illuminated will rise, was one of the scripts that they read. Had they searched the treasure room, they would have found the secret door that took them up to that empty room all the way back up by the initial chamber they walked into. Cool things that happened. Don, he took out, in one of the initial practice combat things we had, he took somebody out, and he had the jawbone of the cult fanatic that was taken out in the second little mini combat session. So he's carrying around this jawbone, and his name's Bob. Well, his name's Bob, and he's got skills, and he'd throw him places, you know. He'd send him ahead as a scout, chuck him down the hallway, and Bob would answer him. He'd hear the voices in his head, and everything's all clear, come on down, you know, and funny, stupid stuff. Blowing up the keg of powder in the very first little room they went to, springing the trap. It was a great night. It was. Had fun. Took some chapters out of Matt Mercer's book. Every time the killing blow came up, how do you want to do this? And everybody got asked that question at least once. So some really epic moments happened. I was able to try to work on honing my storytelling, and it really, really was a very fun evening for everybody. And I'm so looking forward to the coming months, the coming years. You never know how far this rabbit hole is going to go, you know. So really looking forward to it. A great bunch of guys. My gaming group that I've had for the last 2.5 years at this point. Almost 3 years now coming up. And, you know, no jitters or anything, because already familiar with the players, so that helped a lot. And it freed up the creativity on all of our parts. Had a blast. Really did. So I just wanted to share this video. To the guys, when you're watching this, you know, I welcome you commenting down below. I'd like to know a couple of things. One, if at any point you felt like you were being railroaded, or if you really felt that through the game you had full control of the decisions you made. 2, did you always have plenty to do? I mean, there wasn't a lot of downtime, was there? And that may not always hold up, but 3, I think I know the answer to this, but did you have fun? That's the most important part right there. Did you have fun? Camera's getting ready to go stupid, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this short. Guys, this is Sneaky Pete with Sneaky Shoot RPG. Dear DM Diary, Volume 1. Thanks for watching, guys. Thank you very much. Here's to a lot more adventure and a lot more fantastic storytelling. One more thing, and I talked with Reven on the way home about this. And you've already given it some thought, but a really good way to do this is think about where your character is going to be at the end of this long story. Are you going to become king? Are you going to defeat a god and take his place? Are you going to be the head of the greatest assassin and thieves guild that's ever happened? Are you going to be the commander of armies? Are you going to be a high priest? I mean, think of the end result of the culmination of all the playing that we're going to do, and we're going to try to make that happen. We are going to try to make that happen, and we will try to figure out the best starting blocks in order to accomplish those goals. I want you guys to have fun. I want everybody playing this game to have fun. This game is fun. It really is. It brings out creativity. There's communication. You're sitting at a table and you're looking your fellow players in the eye. There's a lot of community. Just have fun, man. Roll those dice and keep those ones a-coming.